Hey guys, Gavin here. Today we're going to be digging into BX Ora, my new favorite go-to reverb by Brainworx. So let's dig in. First I have a lovely dry piano loop. Oh, dry. Let's turn on BX Ora, and now let's hear it. Is beautimous. So this plugin has a lot going into it, like most Brainworx plugins. So it has multiple different algorithms. The space algorithm. So I'm just going to maximize the mix so we hear just the reverb. This one's good for kind of more otherworldly styles of reverbs. You have soft, which is just a straight reverb with no additional effects for the most part. There's an echoes reverb, which is a little bit more clicky, kind of like a mixture between a delay and a reverb. A little more tinny almost on the sound as well. This one's cool. This is a reverse reverb. This was what wowed me the most, because like that's cool. Normally to do something like that, I'd have to do a whole lot of post-processing, but this plugin does it all instantly, and frankly does it better than I would. Lastly, there is a room reverb algorithm, which just simulates realistic room spaces. So this works especially well for like drums and things like that with a short decay. So this is kind of like a Swiss Army knife reverb for all sorts of situations. So let's dig into some of the knobs, because there's a lot of controls built into this thing. So you have your classic mix, dry, wet. You have stereo width from mono on the reverb all the way to full stereo. You can pan the reverb left and right. One thing that I am impressed with about this plugin is it works with FL Studio's parameters. I can right-click on this, create an automation clip, link it to a controller without having to go through all the last tweaked and next to last tweaked sections just to get it to lock onto a controller. So that is fantastic. You can double-click on any of these and just type in exactly what percentage you want it to be, which also is really helpful. You have your size, which is, how big is this space? Very small to very big. And it's more noticeable when you have a little bit of a higher mix volume, wet volume, and longer decay. Also, did you notice that little filter sweep? When you adjust the size, it actually tweaks the reverb pitch. Make it really long. So you can do some cool creative things with that, like drops and whatnot. It's so nice, I like that. So as far as the decay goes, normally it's by seconds, so this is like a 2-second decay. What's crazy to me is it goes all the way up to 100 seconds. Now, this might seem a little odd that it can do that when you have a freeze button up here. So let's freeze the reverb and see what it does with this loop. So the difference between having a super long decay and turning on the freeze is that the decay will continue to apply a new reverb to whatever new sounds or notes are played, whereas the freeze does not. The freeze completely locks the reverb buffer to where any new incoming sound doesn't change it. So the decay is useful if you just want everything to be lush. Freeze is useful if you want to have just one nice little ambient thing in the background while you're doing whatever else with it. That's a handy dandy thing. There's a sync button for your decay to make it so that you'll have like a half beat or a full beat decay if you want it to be a little more rhythmic. You have a diffusion a diffusion knob, which just makes it, more clicky or less clicky. So diffusion at 0, fairly clicky. Diffusion at 100, much softer. This plugin actually makes the diffusion a lot softer, even when it's at 0, than some other reverbs I've tried. You have a pre-delay, of course. Just determines when the reverb kicks in, so you don't mess up your transients while mixing everything. The cool part, you can make the pre-delay time synced. Which gives you a lot of really creative rhythmic options for that. You have a low multiplier and a high multiplier, which just adjusts different frequencies, almost like a bell curve, strictly on the reverb. So for example, right now I have the low frequencies scooped out on this piano. Let me turn that off. So if I turn this low multiplier at 200 hertz up, you can actually hear just a little bit of a difference on the bass frequencies. The cool part is I can adjust which frequency I want to boost the most. Up to 2 kilohertz. So if I turn that down, all of a sudden my reverb is very washed out. So, cool stuff there. High multiplier, same thing. Just makes the reverb brighter wherever you put the target frequency at. You have a low cut and a high cut. Kill all the bass frequencies if you want. Then you have a lovely high cut to kill all the high stuff. If you want to make everything just nice and warm. The cool part is you can do a pre on that and a post. Just basically, is there the low cut or high cut happening before or after the reverb starts? You have another neat thing, which is a modulator just for the reverb. So let me max out the mix volume on this. So if I really adjust this, so right now it's set to 30%, basically this kind of, for lack of a better word, it's not diffusion, but it's like it diffuses the reverb signal, almost detuning it. So if I turn it off, it just feels a little smoother. If I max it out, it's like adding a chorus, but only to the reverb. Beautiful watery effects with that, or you can get creative and make really weird stuff. So there's neat things that you can do with that to give your reverb a little bit more movement. Then down near the bottom, you have a drive, so you can distort the reverb. So turn it on, turn up my drive. And with that, just make it a little fuzzier. There's different modes too. The cool part, forgive my timer going off somewhere back there. Cool part is that you have the ability to apply the distortion prior to the reverb or after the reverb. Oh, gotta keep it turned on. Apologies, let me get that thing. They're gonna drive me nuts. Alrighty. So that can be really useful for a lot of different effects. Not as useful on this piano sound, but you can do it with it. So, there's also a gate and a ducking option, which is such a cool thing for mixing. So for now, I'm actually going to move over to my other pattern and to my Addictive Drums one on a room reverb. So just have this little kit loop. Without the reverb, it's a lot more dry. Now the fun part is the gate. So this is like the instant 80s trick, if you will. So you start playing it, lower your threshold. And literally, that is like what they did to all the 80s music. But the nice thing is you can determine how quickly the gate is applied, how long it holds for, and how quickly it lets go. So you can get a much sharper sound to the gate. Then you have the ducking, which is like instead of cutting off the reverb tail, it ducks the incoming signal and whatnot. Or rather, it ducks the reverb based on the input audio. On this kit, might not be as useful, but for certain sounds where you want the transient to be especially sharp and then the reverb comes in, this is a great way to do that. And this is also nice because you can apply an external sidechain to it with a little bit of routing magic. That will enable it so that the reverb ducks when your kick plays or something like that. Just so many cool things that you can do with this plugin. Like, for me personally, the reverse reverb is just crazy magic. Like, straight up, it is weird. If I go back to my piano, you already heard me fiddle with it a little bit. And I am getting all kinds of messages right now. Why am I so popular? So if I go back to this thing, and I'm just going to fiddle with it for a minute. that just cool? So, suffice it to say, I approve. Like, this is just such a good plugin. The only thing that kind of bothers me about it is that each of the different algorithms kind of feels the same. The differences between each of them can be subtle in certain cases, particularly with the soft and the room reverb ones. I'll find that the room reverb is just a little warmer, a little more natural, of course, where the soft is just my favorite ambient artificial stuff. All in all, it is an incredible plugin, very feature rich, and worth every dollar. This is one that I cannot recommend enough. I'm very obnoxious with my reverbs. Like, I struggle to find which one I want to use at any given time. Since getting this, I've been using it regularly. So I just love this thing. Anything by Brainworx is generally fantastic. So that's the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please kick the buttons. Kick them. Don't click them, kick them. And yeah, the like, subscribe, and notification if you really want to see my face every 8 months when I finally have energy. Otherwise, thanks so much for your time, guys. Have a great day.